Do South Africans uphold the age-old spirit of Ubuntu? Are modern parents failing to raise disciplined children? How can the moral regeneration movement help eradicate xenophobia? And how can the recent xenophobic violence assist to forge unity in our country? What time is it? It's question time. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Elvis Presslin. I'm standing in for Mpho Tsedu today. Now, South Africa and the world are still reeling from the passing on of the former Alexandra Blackpool, Kaizer Chiefs and Turkish giants Fernabache star player Mpho Tsedu. Mpho know many people who have described him as one of the most gifted, yet humble and disciplined football players. He was indeed a symbol of what Ubuntu is. Now that's part of the discussion. Now for his part, Dr. Mpho Tsedu from the Kaizer Heritage Institute said the recent xenophobic violence called for the revival of Ubuntu, the central tenet of African religion, as an important factor in the search of a new world order. But the question is being African still defined by the spirit of Ubuntu? Now, a reminder to our viewers at home that you can call us and air your views on the following numbers: 011 714 6841. You can also try 011 714 6842 or 43. Call us anytime and we'll take that call and you can join in on the discussion. Now, my guest in studio are Father Mangaliso Makacha. He's the chairman of the Moral Regeneration Movement. We also have Ms. Zwidze Gondo as a Zimbabwe national. And then, of course, in our parliamentary studios, we are joined by Dr. Mpho Tsedu, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services. A very good afternoon to you and welcome.
Thank you very much, Elvis.
Good afternoon.
Now, before we go into discussion, let's listen to what the chairperson of the African Union, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, had to say about xenophobia in South Africa.
South Africa, since time immemorial, has been a diverse country. It welcomed to its shores Africans and peoples from all over the world. It shall remain diverse. This diversity is its biggest strength and will continue to be so into the future. The African Union calls on the government of the Republic of South Africa to do more to protect the foreign nationals in the country.
Now, the question that we have to pose today is, do South Africans still uphold the age-old spirit of Ubuntu? Father, let's start off with you with that question. What do you think?
We have a chart of positive values contained in this booklet. And one of the very first values, which is probably fundamental to all the others, talks about respect for human dignity and equality of all human beings. And it goes on to say that we have to be committed to the spirit of Ubuntu, which underlies our democracy and is embedded in our constitution, is as fundamental as that. As far as we are concerned, the way we were brought up, the way we in fact were even encouraged to think and so on, was very much based on this fundamental principle and philosophy of Ubuntu.
From the moral regeneration's perspective, what is the role of the movement?
The role of the movement is to ensure that people take seriously certain values, commonly shared values, and they are contained in this booklet called the Charter of Positive Values. We really believe that if we seriously lived by these values, there wouldn't be incidents, tragic incidents such as xenophobia, hatred, corruption. There wouldn't be fighting among people, theft, and all these sort of social ills that plague us today. So with what has then happened, unfortunately, in the last few days, MRM has issued a statement condemning xenophobic attacks and saying that we do need to come together as South Africans, as brothers and sisters from the rest of the continent, because we believe Ubuntu is the fundamental cornerstone of the way we should be living together.
Dr. Motsecha, let me come to you. The role as or what role is the philosophy of Ubuntu, as Father Mkacha just indicated? What is the role of the philosophy of Ubuntu playing in present-day South Africa as we speak?
Let us start by saying slavery, colonialism, and apartheid have destroyed the African soul. And that's why our icon Nelson Mandela called for the RDP of the soul. Now, the destruction of the African soul gave birth to rampant materialism, which leads to competition rather than collaboration between people. Therefore, the role that we see for moral regeneration through Ubuntu values and principles is that of restoring our humanity and the humanity of others, and ensuring that we put human beings before material things, but also recognize that the creation of a new African and a better Africa requires the revival of the spiritual and material interests of the human being in a balanced form.
Now, Ms. Gondo, let me come to you. We've seen the xenophobic violence in South Africa. As a Zimbabwean, what do you make of it? And do you think that this moral regeneration that we're talking about is essential to eradicate xenophobia?
Yeah, I do think it is essential to eradicate xenophobia. But I think before we get to that, we need to first of all ask ourselves, what is causing xenophobia? Because there is no way we can talk of stopping xenophobia when we don't know the root cause. We need to go to the root causes of those actions that people are taking. What really is causing that? Go into the communities, because it's not like all South Africans are doing that. But there are certain South Africans who are living under certain conditions, who feel that maybe by the foreigners coming, the coming in of the foreigners is causing the conditions that they are living under. So we need to address those root causes before we talk of stopping the xenophobic attacks.
And those root causes that Ms. Gondo is talking about, Father, is it contained in that booklet that can assist in helping eradicate xenophobia?
Yes, in fact, I want to follow up on what Dr. Motsecha said and the last speaker, that we cannot even talk about Ubuntu without at the same time addressing the common good, the common welfare of all, talking about the freedom of people, justice of people, fighting poverty, unemployment, social inequalities. So Ubuntu also means a better life for all. So it's not just something that is theoretical or it's in the heart, but it's also in the daily lives of people. So I would therefore say that for me, for us, one of the causes probably of this conflict has a lot to do with the scramble for scarce resources on the ground, especially amongst poor people. So it's not a question simply just of fighting other people and hating them simply because they look different from you. It's much more fundamental than that. So the whole question then of what do we do about the unemployment, particularly of so many young people? What do we do as government, as the community, to ensure that people begin to appreciate one another as human beings, but also as people of Africa?
Dr. Motsecha, just briefly, you've mentioned the RDP of the soul. How do we repair that RDP of the soul?
The RDP of the soul can be repaired by the revival of Ubuntu values and principles. But as Mrs. Gondo correctly points out, we must deal with the root causes. Now, the root causes stem from the triple challenge of poverty, unemployment, and inequalities, which were not caused by the foreign nationals, but which are a legacy of slavery, colonialism, and apartheid. So the anger is directed to wrong people. The anger should be directed to the eradication of this legacy that I'm referring to. So there is a struggle for the scarce resources, as Father Mkachwa is saying, but that struggle should not be directed at foreign nationals who in some sense are also economic refugees in our country, because slavery and colonialism have not only destroyed South Africa but the continent. And despite the scarcity of the resources in their own countries, they supported our struggle for freedom, hoping that when the whole of Africa is free, we will combine our efforts to eradicate poverty, unemployment, and inequalities on the continent as a whole. So in that sense, we must also then appreciate the initiative taken by the President to call all the stakeholders to union building today, because one hopes that that will kickstart the collective effort to deal with our challenges in South Africa and on the continent.
Thank you, Doctor. Let's take a break quickly. A reminder that you can call us, and we'll give you that number just after the break. That number again, 0117146841 or 2 or 3. We'll be right back after this. Please don't go away.
Information-hungry viewers stay with SABC News, as issues on the West are different from issues on the East or here in Johannesburg. So it is not surprising that people who follow the news know that there are two things for sure: that anything can happen, and SABC News will tell you when it does. Because we keep the nation fully informed. We are SABC News.
Now, welcome back. You are still watching Question Time. I'm Elvis Presslin. I'm in for Mpho Tsedu. Now, still on the issue of xenophobia, this is what the Secretary General of the African National Congress, Gwede Mantashe, had to say.
Xenophobia is bad. Nobody attacks a person who comes to his house and be respected by anybody. If we attack people who come to our country, we're saying this country must not be respected by anybody in the world. We're sending a negative picture about our own country, about ourselves, and we're destroying the image of the country. That's why we all we're joining the campaign that says no to xenophobia. It is not what South African can be proud of. It is un-African.
That's Gwede Mantashe for you. Now let's have a caller on the line. Ben from Cape Town, a very good afternoon to you.
Yes, good afternoon. All I wanted really to contribute is that generally I wouldn't say South Africans are xenophobia. I think there is about 5% which does do a lot of criminal in the name of xenophobia name, but they do really do quite enormous damage. Which maybe, if you check it, you'll think maybe South Africans are xenophobia. I think it's too generalized that we say that. I really think on the ground, there must be a lot of education to the people living in the informal settlements and in the locations. whereby they must be also afforded a chance to be told that foreigners, wherever they come from, they also have the same hardship which they do also have. And now there is also a group of some South Africans which I think they must also be involved, where there is quite a lot of students, also young people, also unemployed, not because they don't get the work, but sometimes they don't have enough qualifications to be employed. So we need also to have people who don't drop out of school, then they resort to these small petty crimes. Because if South Africans were really xenophobia...
Thank you, Ben. I think we've got the message. Thank you so much for that call. Father, let me come to you. The xenophobic violence in South Africa, do you think that the African continent, or the world for that matter, will forgive South Africa for the violence that has happened, not just now, but even in 2008?
Incidentally, in 2008, after the attacks, I was in Ghana attending a conference which was attended by councillors, mayors from Cape to Cairo. And without being mandated, I apologize for what had happened in South Africa. I said, that is not the true reflection and picture of what South Africa is all about. But when this happened this time round, the same thing happened. I said to myself, maybe there is one question we all need to ask ourselves. Locally, on the ground, where were the councillors? What councillors? Where were members of the churches, the clergy? Where were the political leaders of political organizations? Where were the leaders of trade unions? In other words, business, including the academia. So in other words, there is a sense in which failure of leadership at all levels, well, including provincial, even right up to national, we all really failed. We didn't fulfill our responsibility adequately enough. We should have, for instance, found a mechanism of finding out almost preemptively what was likely to happen and therefore find a way of stopping it.
Ms. We're going to come to another call on the line, but just briefly before we go there, Ms. Gondo, you heard the previous caller, Ben from Cape Town, said that South Africans is not really xenophobic. Are you of that opinion as well?
Yes, I'm definitely of that opinion, because now if you look at, like I mentioned earlier, people who are staying, let me say, for example, in some certain townships, people where you find that in those areas there is a poor service delivery and all the like, they are the people who are like that, because they feel that, if I may quote what some of them do say, that the foreigners are coming to take our jobs, they are taking our wives and all that, forgetting that those people who are coming, most of them, if we look at some engineers, like top engineers, they are expatriate engineers, they come from outside. It simply means that they are no, like, I cannot say that they are no qualified South Africans, but mostly some of those top qualified, they are from outside. It's not like they come here to take jobs, but they are qualified for that job and they get those jobs on merit. Ordinary South Africans who have got their ordinary lives, they do not do that. So yes, what Ben said is actually right. Not all South Africans are xenophobic.
Let's go to Rozani in Shoshangu. A very good afternoon to you, Rozani.
Hi, sir. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Fine. Sir, I would like to make a call or an appeal to your panelists and all people across the country who are saying no to xenophobia to also raise their voice and say all those foreign nationals who are in this country illegal to kindly go back, because by simply crossing the border of this country, you are disrespecting the laws of this country and its people.
Thank you so much. That was Rozani. Now, Doctor, let me come back to you. Why are these incidents occurring in South Africa at this point in time? And the question would also be asked, did it happen during apartheid?
I think the two situations...
Continue, Doctor.
Are you putting the question to me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I say the two situations are not comparable. Under apartheid, there was no flow of information. I think the Secretary General of the ANC has captured the essence of our challenge very well. And that also means that human rights education must be intensified, and that unemployment and unemployability of our young people is not caused by our African brothers and sisters. Maybe Father Mkachwa is right to say that there's a failure of leadership, but that failure of leadership is actually within the people charged with the responsibility for moral regeneration, especially the faith-based organizations. If they had done their work, we would not deteriorate to the level where we think killing our African brothers and sisters is a solution to our social and economic problems. And to say that our African brothers and sisters should not have come into the country is not the issue. The issue is whether they are here legally or illegally. Xenophobic attacks and killing of our African brothers and children and sisters cannot be excusable under any circumstances.
We have another call on line. Joe from Carltonville. Joe, a very good afternoon to you.
How are you, sir?
Joe, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you, sir?
We are very well. It's Elvis here. You can continue. Your thoughts?
You know, with the subject that you're discussing there now, ne?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, Joe. Go ahead.
Yeah, with the subject that you're discussing in there, ne? The only problem, the problem is one. And these South African politicians, they mustn't just come us and tell us that they fought with, that they were they did go outside and get assistance and all of that. Yes, we agree they did get assistance. The only problem in South Africa is jobs. If there can be jobs, we don't have a problem with the foreign nationals. We must deal with the real problem. The real problem, the real cause of the problem is jobs. If we can get jobs, all these things can go away. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Judge Joan Carltonville. Now, Dr. Motsecha, you mentioned it, the triple challenges that we have. That's one of them that one of our listeners are just speaking about.
Yeah, it's true that we need jobs. But you see, the unemployment we have, as I said, is caused by the triple challenge of poverty, unemployment, and inequalities, which are the legacy of slavery, colonialism, and apartheid. So we, by killing, attacking our African brothers and sisters, is not going to create jobs, because our economy can grow faster and better if we have good relationships with other African countries. We work together with these African countries, but these attacks will create a divide between African countries, weaken South Africa and its ability to do trade and to create the necessary jobs. So xenophobic attacks and killings must stop forthwith. Is not in the interest of South Africa, Africa, or anybody else.
Doctor, thank you so much. Maxwell in Cape Town, be very brief. We got 30 seconds for you, Maxwell. Well, we lost Maxwell there. But, Father, let me come back to you. The role of these other African countries in our freedom. Do we as South Africans really appreciate the role that these African countries has played?
You ask the question, will Africa and the rest of the world ever forgive us? They will. For the simple reason that if you look at Nazi Germany, look at the pogroms in Eastern Europe and so on. So those are huge, terrible, barbaric actions. But somehow the international community found a way to forgive them with the understanding that never again. They put systems in place to ensure that this is prevented from ever happening. So I'm very confident they will forgive us. And I can only say I'm very sorry for Nkosazana Zuma, especially these days. She must be having a very, very painful situation.
Well, that was question time for today. I'd like to thank you, all my guests right here in studio. Father Smangaliso Makacha, he is from the Moral Regeneration Movement, Ms. Switso Gondo, Zimbabwe National, joining us here in studio, and of course in our parliamentary studios, Dr. Matola Motsecha, the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Correctional Services. Doctor, thank you so much for you. I wish we had more time, but unfortunately that's all we have. We need an hour for this one. But that's question time for today. A big thank you, and all our guests, and to you for watching the show. We welcome your feedback via email on questiontime@sabc.co.za, or you can tweet us on the Twitter handle at questiontime24. From me, Elvis Presslin, and the rest of the crew, you have yourself a wonderful time ahead. Ciao for now.
Exams monitoring body Manusi is withholding the results from 69 exam centers where group copying is suspected. 39 of them are in KwaZulu-Natal.
This is the first time that the rollout of CAPS has reached grade 12, and that's why the assessment is being rolled out now.
A slight recovery is expected this year with improving labor relations and gradually stronger exports. National Treasury expects the economy to grow at 2.5% this year. Electricity tariffs will rise by almost 13% this year and not the 8% initially announced. The energy regulator granted Eskom this increase to help the utility raise funds to plug a financial shortfall.
Catch all news locally and internationally. Tune into SABC, your #1 news channel. News at 8 from Monday to Sunday.
Media Monitor. The title says it all.
We do have a dilemma here because Lesotho is a sovereign country. I don't think it is the obligation of South Africa's media to even tell the people of Lesotho what's going on in Lesotho.
Join our panel of experts as they unpack and monitor all the leading and breaking news stories making waves in the print and social media platforms. That's Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali.
Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News Channel.
One of the qualities I found in him is that he took his business as serious as I took mine.
When I see Kujo, I don't see disability. I see one of my boys. I work with him on any project because I believe in his input.
Diagnosed with osteogenesis imperfecta, commonly known as brittle bone disease, from a young age, Kujo knew that his winning ticket in life would be a positive mindset.
You'd work and the salary wasn't that good. That's when I saw that let me start my own thing.
I come up with ideas, and Kujo will put those ideas into marketing tools that I can use.
Join me, Refiwe Mwiba, on Bopelong, your show about those who take on and conquer life's challenges, every Saturday at 17:30.
We kick off this week's show by seeing how Kenyans are paying tribute to the victims, as well as not only how they've coped, but how they returned stronger after the attacks.
Last year, images of the 4-day Westgate Mall attack saturated front pages.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, artists have assembled to celebrate the peace this war-torn country has not had in a long time.
No conflict that can't be solved without a conversation.
The Journal, every Saturday at 1:30 on SABC News.